This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Today we're discussing something that is a subject that's near and dear to my heart and things that we think about. And that subject is continuous improvement. And we'll talk about this in a number of different settings. We're joined here by Liz Hutson. Liz is herself a sort of iconoclast of continuous improvement. She's an engineer, turned consultant, turned product leader, and now runs a really successful consulting firm, consulting in the device world, the healthcare world, mostly to private equity sponsored companies and a host of others, but a brilliant, brilliant person. Liz, let me tee it up. Tell us a little bit how you think about continuous improvement and why it's so important.
Yeah, and thanks, Scott. I appreciate the introduction. So yeah, continuous improvement, like you, is near and dear to my heart. I'm always thinking about ways that we can make ourselves better, that we can make our work settings better, product services better, all of these things, because the idea is if we just get complacent, we're never gonna go anywhere. So when I think about continuous improvement, I think about it in three buckets in particular. I'm sure there's many more, but one bucket is around products and services, right? What we do to deliver those kinds of things for our customers. How do we surprise and delight them, meeting and exceeding our customers' needs? And I think this is where great innovation is born, right? This is where we're looking for new concepts, better outcomes. It might be improved efficiencies, overall decrease in cost, whatever that might be. But that's one bucket of things. Another bucket to me is around your professional reinvention of yourself. For me, like you said, Scott, I started in engineering. I moved into marketing. I went on to create a consulting business, have been in it for 13 years. And now I'm working on reinventing myself again, thinking about the area of speaking and teaching. And I think about much the same for you, Scott, where you started in the space of legal, some finance and things. And now all these Becker's conferences, the podcast, people come to, what you've created for cutting edge healthcare, dental analysis, all of that is a continuous improvement, I think, of a professional setting. And then lastly, I think of really just personal, physical, mental continuous improvement, where we just keep working on ourselves. New ideas, unexplored areas, physical challenges, things like that.
No, and we couldn't agree more. And we look at I've served on the boards and advisory boards of a couple software companies, and how critical it is, just as one example, that the development and improvement of software is never done. It's you get a product out, and then it's constant improvement. And the greatest companies, whether it's the Apples of the world in healthcare, the Epics of the world, are just constantly trying to improve their software and what they do and their product, and they never stop. And that's sort of how it has to be almost as human beings as well. And then it's a matter of trying to be intentional about it as well. Tell me how you when you talk to customers, talk to clients about continuous improvement, what are some of the things you see, and how do people stay motivated and make that part of their sort of just how they do business, that they don't view it as ever done, that they're always improving and putting resources into it? So you got to put resources into it as well.
Yes. I like the way you asked that question. The immediate and almost only word that comes to my mind is curiosity. And it's this idea of, if we can get curious about what our customers are doing, what they need, where they are frustrated, where they're excited, we get curious about those things and we start to chase those answers down. We only get better when we look for them, we find solutions to them, we share it with them. Curiosity is everything in that process. And it's important, I think, as far as a investment in that space, is when you think about the companies that are going to grow and are going to be profitable and be successful, they're the ones that are going to stay not only with, but just ahead of their customers to anticipate what those needs are and provide those solutions that are just going to make their lives, their work, their workflow easier, more effective, more most cost efficient, et cetera. So I think it's all about curiosity.
And what about, we talk about, I always look at this constant self-improvement or improvement for software companies, where I think about it often, I think about it the most, how it's you're constantly commercializing, constantly improving. what about on a personal motivation level? And how do you focus your improvement to keep on trying to improve as a person or whatever you're trying to do, whatever your endeavors are? How do you think about those things?
Yes, I think that's just as important. I think, if not more so, I think when we focus on ourselves and continuous improvement, not comparison to other people, but comparison to who you were yesterday. How do you make yourself better physically, mentally? I'm actually in the middle of a huge long book. I don't even know how I'm going to get through the end of this. It's a long book. It's outstanding. It's called Outlive. And it talks about this idea of pushing ourselves outside, one of many things. It talks about pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone for a lot of reasons. But as you're introducing new hobbies or introducing yourself to just new concepts and kind of pushing your brain in a different sort of way, this is really important and helpful for neurological health too. So there's a physical benefit to it, there's a mental benefit for it, and there's just a satisfaction, I think, in life as you get to learn things and do things new.
So the thing is, you mentioned the book Outlive, which is, I think, the Dr. Peter Attia book, which is
That's right.
an absolutely fascinating book. And he talks about, and this has become a bigger issue as people live longer, this distinction between what he calls health span and lifespan, meaning you might live to 83, but the ideal world, your health is really good to 82, 83 too. And so many people, by not focusing on their mental and physical health and all these things, end up in a situation where their health starts to go down 10, 15 years before their life ends, and thus their quality of life, that last period of time, is just not nearly as good as it could be. So there's constant focus on improvement and taking care of oneself. And they also talk about how many of these things, how many of the problems that people have built up over decades, and so it's the time to start on a lot of this stuff. It's earlier versus later too, which is daunting because so many of these things build up over a very long time, and we're not really aware of the constant micro changes that we're having, often negatively as we age. You're trying to slow that down and strengthen yourself so you don't. But part of it is this constant learning culture and constantly improving. I love that, and I loved reading his book. I listened to it on tape, which I will admit, and that's partly that I'm older than you are, so you end up listening to more of these things on tape than actually reading them, but it is what it is. But
yeah, I'm doing the same thing as you are, Scott, going through it in an audio format. And normally the books that I would listen to are probably in the 6-hour range. This one's 17 hours. So I'm plugging away, but I'm loving every second of it.
Yeah, it's actually really well done. It's so funny. We had a post the other day that self-improvement books or business improvement books, most of them could be 25 to 50% shorter, and it would be 25 to 50% better is my perspective. His book is actually very listenable all the way through, which I find unusual for that long a book. It's really something. In any event, we'll recommend that to people. We recommend you follow Liz Hutson, one of the best, and also listen to Peter Attia, Dr. Peter Attia, who's got brilliant thoughts on these issues. Liz, I want to thank you as always for joining us today on the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast. It's always great to visit with you. You're one of our most listened to guests. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Scott. Great to talk with you.